Today we are going to be understanding the fourth topic as told to you, foreign trade. What was the state of foreign trade during the colonial rule, that is on the eve of independence? Don't forget children, India has abandoned, I'm using the word even today, has abandoned resources. And at the time of independence तो इंडिया के पास बहुत सारे resources थे, लेकिन it was because of the British rule that we were subdued under them, so we had lost literally everything. So we are going to discuss here how the colonial government affected 1. the structure, 2. composition, 3. volume, 4. direction. I repeat, structure, composition, volume and direction of India's foreign trade. See, India was a large exporter of foreign goods, of primary goods like raw silk, cotton, wool, sugar, indigo, etc. It was exporting all these goods basically to the British government, to Britain. And mind you, India is an importer also of finished goods which are being manufactured in Britain, like cotton, silk, woolen clothes, capital goods, machines सारी Britain से आती थी. The second point is Britain had a monopoly. Monopoly मतलब पूरा कंट्रोल था इंडिया के एक्सपोर्ट्स और इंपोर्ट्स के ऊपर. वो जैसे चाहे, जब चाहे, जहां चाहे वहां से एक्सपोर्ट करते थे और वहां से इंपोर्ट करते थे. थर्ड, more than half of India's foreign trade, मतलब इंडिया का जितना भी फॉरेन ट्रेड था ब्रिटेन के लिए था, और बाकी का 50% was allowed to countries like China, Ceylon, Persia, etc. Britain को एक advantage होगी when the Suez Canal opened, the control of Britain became more on Indians foreign trade. उसका रीजन बड़ा सिंपल है, उनको एक शॉर्टकट मिल गया ब्रिटेन पहुंचने का. उसके बाद इन सब चीजों में अगर तुम ध्यान से कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स देखोगे इंडिया के फॉरेन ट्रेड में, देयर वर लॉट ऑफ इंपॉर्टेंट कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स. सबसे पहला कैरेक्टरिस्टिक था देयर वाज अ लॉट ऑफ एक्सपोर्ट सरप्लस व्हिच वाज जनरेटेड. क्यों? क्योंकि हम लोग बहुत सारा एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे थे, तो इसके हिसाब से बहुत सारा फॉरेन कैपिटल, फॉरेन इनफ्लो ऑफ गोल्ड, सिल्वर आना चाहिए था. लेकिन ये जो लार्ज एक्सपोर्ट सरप्लस था, ये था तो अच्छा, लेकिन इंडिया के लिए बहुत हार्मफुल था. Why? Because of the following reasons. India faced problems. What were the problems that India faced? 1. It had to have it at a huge cost of the country's economy. How? Because there were several essential food commodities like food grains, clothes, kerosene. All these became very scarce. Why did they become scarce? Because all of them were being exported to the Britain government, to the Britain industry. So domestic market में इनकी scarcity होगी. Second, जितना भी हम एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे थे उस एक्सपोर्ट सरप्लस का गोल्ड सिल्वर जो कंट्री के अंदर आ रहा था, इट डिड कम इन, लेकिन whatever came into the country was not used for India's development. It was used to pay the expenses incurred by the offices set up by the British government in India. It was used for all the expenses on the war made by Britain with other countries. It was used for all the imports of invisible item, मतलब shipping के लिए, banking के लिए, जितना भी ब्रिटेन से आ रहा था सामान, उसकी shipping, उसकी जो invisible items थे, उसके लिए सारा खर्चा हो रहा था. Because of which there was a huge drain on the India's wealth through foreign trade. To recap, 1. India was a large exporter of many goods, importer of many goods. Britain had monopoly. More than 50% was being sent to Britain, remaining 50% to other countries. Suez Canal helped Britain control. India had a large export surplus, but many problems like essential commodities were very scarce in the domestic market. There was a huge inflow of gold and silver, but it was used for the expenses of the offices set up by the Britain in India. It was used for the wars conducted by Britain. It was used for the invisible items, import of invisible items by Britishers. Hence, there was a drain on the India's wealth. अगर इसकी composition देखोगे तो export import है. अगर इसका structure देखोगे, it is divided into foreign trade. अगर तुम इसकी वॉल्यूम देखोगे, बहुत सारा वॉल्यूम है, 50% to Britain and other 50%. Direction आपको बता दी, Britain and other countries also. The next topic we're going to talk about is the demographic condition. When I say demographic condition, it is something related to the population. It is related to the social aspect of the country. Now here we're going to talk about how and what was the demographic conditions during the colonial period, or rather at the time of independence. इसको pre-independent era भी कहते हैं. सबसे पहले we'll talk about the first population census was collected in 1881 by the British India. Right? Lekin, this population census revealed that the population growth of India at the time of independence was very uneven. When I say uneven, it means it was not very steady. Right? At times it showed a high population growth and at times it showed a low one. The very important thing to understand here was the 1921 demographic transition. If you see very carefully, I have made 3 stages there. There were 3 stages of demographic transition. In the first stage, normally what happens is your birth rate and death rate is very high, and this was before 1921. It reveals that it is an underdeveloped economy. In the second phase, when an economy moves, it shows birth rate high, death rate low. This was after 1921, which means the developmental process is on progress. Even today, the birth rate is high, the death rate is low. We are still on the developmental process. We can't call ourselves a developed economy. Reason because when you move into the third stage, where the birth rate is low and the death rate is low, then you are claimed as a developed economy. In 1921, India began the second phase, where the death rate was beginning to be low, but the birth rate was very, very high. But if you total population देखोगे, the population was relatively very high, because उस time medical facilities इतनी ज़्यादा नहीं थी. अगर तो death rate high थी, it was because of epidemics. It was not because of very good medical treatments, right? Now, if you look at the various social economic indicators, see, कोई भी चीज को तुमने अगर measure करना है, qualitative चीज को, तो कुछ indicators चाहिए. Social development indicators में हमने सबसे पहले लिया literacy rate. If you observe the literacy rate in the pre-independent era, the literacy rate was less than 16%. And the female literacy was only 7%. Children, this is all statistical data. आपको as it is learn करना पड़ेगा, but I'm making it easy by telling you. The second indicator was public health. The public health conditions were unavailable. They were not at all good. अगर available भी थे, they were inadequate. बहुत सारी waterborne, airborne diseases बहुत सारी थी. There was a huge rampant toll on the death. लोग बहुत सारे मर रहे थे because of, I just told you, lack of medical facilities. Again, जैसे अभी now we have the coronavirus in 2020. In 1920 we had the Spanish flu. So there were many incidences like this. The overall mortality rate was very, very high, very alarming. उसमें infant mortality rate was very high. 218 children below the age of 1 per 1,000 would die. As if you look at today, maybe not the very latest figure, but there are 63 per 1,000. The next indicator is life expectancy was very, very low, 44 years approximately. As on today, it is 66 years approximately. I'm using the word approximately because this book may not be as today. It may be approximately the last year or the last data before that, right? Again, we did not have much information about the poverty, but undoubtedly there was great poverty, extensive amount of poverty prevailed in that particular situation, and the whole thing worsened India's population at that particular time. So the entire profile of India's population was not very good during the colonial period. Let us understand the occupational structure. When we use the word occupational, it means what work are the people doing? How is the distribution of the work persons, right? Now this was a question in the economics board paper 2020 March. Right. Now, occupational structure, we need to understand a few things here. First, we're going to define what is an occupational structure. It is a distribution of working persons across different industries. When I say different industries and states, it means primary, secondary and tertiary sector. When we look at the distribution of these 3 sectors, it's called the occupational structure. The second point is the occupational structure. The agricultural sector was had the largest share of workforce. Around 70 to 75% of the population was working in the agriculture sector, because I already told you India was an agrarian economy. 85% of the people was dependent on agriculture. अगर तुम स्टेटिस्टिकली देखोगे तो 70 to 75% of the population was working in the agricultural sector and approximately 10% was working in the manufacturing sector, industries बहुत कम थी, and 15 to 20% in the service sector. सर्विस सेक्टर में तो उनके छोटे मोटे काम थे, कोई दुकान थी, कोई प्लम्बर था, कोई इलेक्ट्रिशियन था, ऐसे. The second important point for you to understand is the regional variation. I'm using this word as a subheading, regional variation. Regional variation में it was not equally distributed. There were places like Madras, the presidency, what do you call them? Comprising of areas of present day, ये सारी जगह है, तो we'll take it as Madras and presidency. इन areas में agriculture sector पर जो dependence थी workforce, they decreased, whereas the sectors, the people working in the manufacturing and service sector increased. See children, total percentage तो 100 ही रहेगी. अगर agriculture sector में कम हो रहा है, तो it means दूसरे sectors में इनकी percentage क्या होगी, बढ़गी. Again, we need to understand that there has been an increase in the share of the workforce in agriculture in areas like Odisha, Rajasthan and Punjab at the same time. क्यों? क्योंकि ये तीनों states ऐसी थी उस time, even today for that matter, which contribute to a large amount of agriculture to the economy. Punjab में there's a lot of, इसको कहते ही हैं the green paradise of the world, of India, right? क्यों कहते हैं? क्योंकि यहाँ बहुत सारा agriculture है. राजस्थान भी, उड़ीसा भी. So ये तीनों states जो थी, इनमें share of workforce in agriculture was almost the same. Quick recap children. One, the distribution of workforce amongst different states and industries and sectors is called the occupational structure. Second, agriculture contributed 70 to 75%, manufacturing 10%, and service sector 15 to 20%. There was a lot of regional variation. Places like Madras and other presidency, unme agriculture sector ki workforce declined, but increased in the manufacturing and service sector. At the same time, Odisha, Rajasthan and Punjab mein the share of workforce in agriculture remained the same, or rather thoda बढ़ भी गया था. The last section which we are going to talk about in this particular book, or this particular chapter, is the infrastructure. Infrastructure, you know, is the support system of any economy. Infrastructure is very, very important. Thanks to the Britishers for having made such a strong infrastructure under their rule. Right? We enjoying the railways, ports, water transport, the post and telegraph, all which was laid down by the Britishers. We are going to discuss about two very important infrastructures contributed by the British rule. Right? लेकिन ये बात याद रखनी है कि उन्होंने बनाया तो है, लेकिन उन्होंने इंडिया की भलाई को सोचकर नहीं बनाया. उन्होंने अपने कोई रियल मोटिव के हिसाब से ही ये दोनों इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर्स को डेवलप किया. The first infrastructure we're going to talk about is roads. A lot of roads were constructed before the British rule, right? But many of the roads which were constructed during the British rule were not fit for today's transport. उन्होंने इतने दूर का सोचा ही नहीं था. The roads were mainly built with this purpose in mind, that they could move the army from within the country to outside, right? जैसे उन्होंने ports तक जाना वगैरह. दूसरी बात, they wanted to move the raw material from the countryside. जब हम countryside कहते हैं मतलब villages, from the countryside to the railway stations or the ports, जहाँ से वो अपनी कंट्री के लिए एक्सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं, या जिस मर्जी कंट्री को उन्होंने भेजना था, foreign destination, it would be very nice for them to export. So the main purpose of them to construct roads were, one, to move the army within the country, two, to move the raw material from the villages to the railway stations to export, or to the ports where they could send it to England, right? अगर तुम आज की डेट में देखोगे, the roads are not fit, which were made by the Britishers. Again, there was acute shortage of all-purpose weather roads. What do you say? All-weather roads का मतलब क्या है? Very strong concrete roads. Whenever there was heavy rainfall, the main highways and all were okay. But if you had the feeder roads, the connecting roads, they were very pathetic, right? It was very difficult for people to move, and people in those areas suffered, especially when there are natural calamities or there were famines or there were any problems like that. So अगर Britishers ने contribute किया towards roads as an infrastructure, undoubtedly the motive was for their own purposes. The second contribution made by the British government was the railways in 1850. Again, one mark a question, right? Like, let's not forget, this is one of the biggest contribution they made and a very important contribution, because they have set the railway tracks to the length and breadth, horizontal, east and west of the country. We have the largest network, right? We have a very, very large network of railway tracks. Now again, the purpose of railways to set up this railway as an infrastructure was twofold, two important things. One, it would help to undertake long distance travel. Obviously, if people want to move from Punjab to down south, they needed the railway system. So that was one reason. With this, geographical and cultural barriers were removed. You could move from one country, you could move to see your relatives, etc. Second, it helped in increasing commercialization of Indian agriculture. You could move the excess of the food grains from one part of India to the next part to make the entire economy, entire country self-sufficient, right? Self-sufficient. Rice was moved from the south to the north, wheat was moved from north to south, and so on. The volume of Indian exports also expanded. Why? Because commercialization हो गया, right? So commercially, economically, railways was very good. जितना भी surplus था, that could be exported, क्योंकि वो ports के पास लेकर जा सकते थे और वहाँ से वो export करते थे. There were also some social benefits by having railways. What was the social benefit of having railways? Was that people could move from one place to the other, right? And move and meet their relatives and communicate, etc. Quick recap of the railways. Set up in 1850 by the British government. Very large network they set up. There were two important ways. One, it helped to travel long distance to break the geographical and cultural barriers. Second, it encouraged commercialization in India of agriculture, making the entire economy self-sufficient. Right? Economically, it was benefited because India exports bhi badh gaye the. And second, it had social benefits where people could move from one place to the other because of the railway facilities. Apart from roads and railways, children, of course I put across there, but we'll just have a read through it. Right? We have the inland trade and the sea lanes. Jahan we were using the we were using the rivers, the canals to move the goods. लेकिन ये एक बहुत successful नहीं था. क्यों नहीं था? It failed. Because it was trying to compete with the railways. And you know, जहाँ railway track जा रहा था और जहाँ parallel railway roads, railway trains जा रही थी, उसके parallel ही तुम्हारा canal था. और goods मतलब logs were being transported to the canals. But obviously, it had to depend on the rainfall, which was not very certain. So it was more economical to send by the railways rather than using the inland water supply. So it was mostly a failure. Then you have the electric telegraph in India. It was very, very expensive. You had the postal services, which were again not very, they were useful, but not very, very useful. They were inadequate, not possible to make arrangements everywhere where possible, right? So the most successful way, roads and the railways. Trying to look at the conclusion, children, there's a very important question as to what are the challenges which were posed during the colonial period. If you look at the answer here, it gives you a summary of the entire chapter and it tells you what were the challenges which were posed during the British rule. सबसे पहले was the agriculture. बहुत ज़्यादा labor था. Surplus labor was available and the productivity was very low. Second, industrial sector was not at all advanced, very backward. It had to be modernized, diversified, and you had to increase the capacity building. मतलब बहुत पैसा चाहिए था उसको चलाने के लिए. Foreign trade था, but it was only oriented to make India a feeder economy for the industrial revolution which was taking place in Britain. Infrastructure, undoubtedly, they had set up roads and railways, but the roads and railways setup needed upgradation. All weather roads नहीं थी, they needed expansion and public orientation बड़ी जरूरी थी. लोगों के लिए होना था, लेकिन ब्रिटिशर्स ने ज़्यादातर roads और railways अपने भले के लिए सोचा था. Again, there was a lot of poverty, unemployment बहुत ज़्यादा थी. क्यों ज़्यादा थी? Because industries थी, but industries के लिए तो एक ऐसा चाहिए था, right? If you look at the entire scenario here, there were social and economic challenges in the country were huge. Even demographic conditions were very poor at that time. right? But on the contrary, let's not forget, Britishers did contribute positively to many things in the country. They contributed to the, setting up of industries, a few capital good industries in India. They contributed towards setting up the roads, to infrastructure like roads and railways, right? They brought about commercialization of agriculture, which may not be good for the marginalized and sharecroppers, but for the zamindars and other croppers, it was definitely good. There was a lot of export of Indian goods abroad, which did yield a lot of gold and silver. This gave a lot of recognition to India abroad. Children, we've come to the end of the chapter. I hope you guys have understood the entire chapter. If you look at this particular page here, it's all the questions, and I've marked all the questions with the page numbers. So kindly, I'm moving the video very slowly down. Kindly go through it and make sure that you mark all your bad questions. Children, one point of note which is very, very important. Very, very important. You have to do the NCERT only, because when we have the marking scheme of the board paper, you will observe that the marking scheme is purely based on the NCERT, and the NCERT relatively has that much information which is only required. You do not have unnecessary information in the NCERT, right?